Welcome to the Salty Seekers, where you can hang out with friends and talk about all areas of spirituality and the metaphysical, while knowing you don't have to be pure love and light to do it. So I just made the mistake of going back on TikTok. I had originally planned to block off this entire day to just scroll. The last opportunity I get for it, I want to say goodbye to all my friends. How do you deal with loss and grief? How do you deal with things that just upset you? Do you just stuff them down and ignore them and bypass them, or do you feel the feels?
Well, for the longest time, I definitely stopped them. Now I attempt to let myself feel,
Yeah.
let it pass. Don't want to go there. I know I probably still do on some levels, but it's not something I want to do. Just kind of face it. I've had a lot of great experience, whether it be the constant moving, change is constant. And it's not all bad and it's not all good. And it can be both and it can be sad. You can spend time looking at the past going, hey, I'm going to miss this, or you can kind of like the predicament I found myself in this last month is that's up. But I'm excited. What's next?
Yeah.
TikTok, there's going to be something to replace it. And almost percent of those same folks you can find on other platforms around, whether it be long standing platforms or new platforms people are jumping to, they're there. I've already seen one in the different places that I go. Just let it, feel like,
Yeah.
and don't let someone like me make you feel like you don't want to. And what I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, don't feel that way. But there are those would say that because someone like me,
Yeah.
I don't feel it. I know there's a loss there. I know there's a change there. But for me, it's normal. It's okay. It's changing. Something new will take its place.
Yeah. I always joke that if I were a Barbie doll, they have like nurse Barbie, pilot Barbie, like I would be attachment Barbie. I get attached. I bond like super glue. Like I either don't have a connection to you and it stays that way, or I've decided I'm connecting to you. I like you and I'm keeping you. And like I bond. Now that's not saying that bond can never be broken, but like it takes a lot. And when it's broken, I feel it deep. For anybody out there that's feeling like I feel, who's been ugly crying for days about TikTok going away, because to me it's not just an app. It's not. I know that Jay here, he just got on TikTok. Well, you and I had like a 158-day streak at this point or something. So that's how long ago you got on TikTok. You didn't have enough time to
And
sufficiently love
honestly, I
what
didn't
it
want it. I know who I am. I know what I am. It's those kind of things I can become addicted to. Copious amount of my time
Yeah.
disappear. So intentionally, I'll stay away from stuff like that because
Yes.
it's a rabbit.
And mine did. But is it really lost if
I
you're
just
okay
know
with
I was
that?
wasting time that I was getting flushed there
Right.
where I could have been, I could have guarded, or I could have, taken them to the park. Instead, I was sitting there
Right.
just scrolling, liking videos and scrolling. And it's great entertainment. And,
Right.
there's a lot to be learned on there and a lot of neat people to meet.
See, to me, it wasn't just entertain. I hear what you're saying. That's all valid. And I get that. To me, like TikTok, I signed up very early 2020. The pandemic had just hit. We were bored in the house bored, downloaded TikTok. And these people became my friends, my family. I watched their babies be born and now I watch them go to kindergarten. It's like I was invested in their lives. They got me through some of the hardest, loneliest times I had. I've learned so much from them. My God, I've learned crafts and skills and talents and video editing and cooking and gardening. Like that's the new Google. Like I went on there and I
Like I said,
would learn anything.
you can find
And
almost
then
all
through,
of them elsewhere. But you're not losing them indefinitely. They're there.
I think it's a little different though. I do. You're right. There's still, most of them are still out there in some sense. It's just different than through the whole political, you know, they were my people. I went on there and I found my people. And now I had to say goodbye to my people. So my point is, if you're feeling like I'm feeling about the loss of TikTok, it was not just an app. Your feelings are valid and it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to experience the grief of the loss of a community that you were invested in. And it's okay to be upset about that. I mean, certainly don't let it consume you, but you don't have to push it away either, because other people, and I'm not saying this about you, I'm saying about life. Other people in life are saying, it's just an app.
I didn't say that.
But like today, I went to lunch with my family, and a few of my family members are just like, I don't get it. It's stupid. But what are you so upset about? And I'm just like, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to feel your feelings. So What are your guys' thoughts? You know, and then we had the whole red note thing, which was just sorry, I'm like dabbing my nose over here. Sorry, guys. This is real shit. I haven't been on there in the last today or maybe yesterday. So I don't even know how long this is going to sustain before they change the rules or put a firewall in to separate the IPs from different parts of the world. I don't know how long that fresh state of being is going to be allowed to continue, but those first few days, they were magic. I've never experienced anything like it. I mean, I've said that it was kind of like the Berlin Wall coming down when I was I think I was a senior in high school, if not a senior, very shortly after. I don't know, sometime when I was in high school, the Berlin Wall come down. What year did that happen? Do you know?
Early 90s.
Let me Google. Please hold. November 9th, 1989. So I had just started my senior year. That was profound. The wall came down and people who never thought that they would have access to each other had access. You could get to know someone that you were like forbidden to communicate with, or that there was such a separation. And it was just amazing. I feel like that's what has been happening with Red Note. It's just been magic. It really was. The people have been so kind. We knew we were going to Red Note, like, the word on TikTok was like, "Let's all go to Red Note," and everybody was like, "Yeah, let's go." They had no idea we were coming. They just woke up one morning and their timeline was flooded with Americans, and they're like, "Where did you guys come from? We're allowed to talk to you. Oh my god, let's talk before they shut it down." It's just been a wonderful experience. If you had any experience with Red Note, let me know your thoughts. Do you feel about it the same way I felt, that it was just like a healing experience for humanity? You know, John Lennon singing Imagine, all the people. Like, it just gets me in the feels. It just hits me right there. So anyways, yeah, I try to allow myself to feel the feelings, ride the wave, and let them pass through. It's when I hold on to them that I get issues with my throat chakra and with all those kind of things. Now, you say you are more willing to let yourself feel the feels these days, but how are you doing with being vulnerable about sharing the feels, like sharing them to other people or around other people? Or do you try, like typical men, to be kind of stoic around other
I
people and
tend
just
to
feel them
feel them
privately,
privately,
shut the
but
world out?
I'm, if it happens, it happens. I'm not afraid to do it in front of people. It depends on what it is. And
That's good.
sometimes, like, if it's shadow work or shadow, something element that's been hiding, it pops out. And if you're around when it pops out, it requires throwing. You're going to watch.
I think
It
that's
doesn't
great.
happen. One of these, one of the things that I carry with me is there's some loss of some people. I didn't really know them greatly, but it was tragic. Imagine being a part of a company and you work in this department and they work in that department. You're part of the same company, but you don't work directly together in the
Mhm.
common areas, the building, and a bunch of them died. And so for a decade, almost 2 decades, I carried that with me. It was a guilt, but the guilt wasn't not feeling the most of them. It was, I didn't feel entitled to these, I didn't feel entitled to more of them because
To
I
your
wasn't their
grief.
mother, their brother, the cat, the dog. I wasn't their intimate coworker. And it wasn't that moment that I finally to have that grief, to feel okay with that grief. And it was a good tearjerker session. And it happened on
Yeah.
the anniversary day of that. I kind of fell out as soon as I got home.
Well, I'm glad that you finally came to that place of acceptance and giving yourself permission to feel that grief. Like, you don't have to earn a spot for grief. I think a lot of people feel that way, though. It pisses me off. It like hurts my feelings and pisses me off. As we've well established on this channel and this podcast already, like, I am a feeler of the feelings, whether I like it or not. And I have faced some shame for
I
that.
tell you, it's because when you have a hard time feeling or I don't feel
Right.
like you do, it doesn't make it invalid. It just, it's your way. You feel that.
Right. But I think that it's a common issue in our society, maybe worldwide, but I can only speak from my experience. I remember when my cousin Michelle had her first baby, Richard. He just passed away a year or so ago. Rest in peace. Michelle, growing up, she was more like my sister than my cousin. We were raised together most of the time. And she was my best friend. And when she had her first baby, I remember going to the hospital to hold the baby, and I was sobbing. I was so happy for her. I was so blessed to be holding this baby. Welcome to the family. And I'm like, I'm so happy for you. And my aunt came in the room and she goes, "Whose baby is it? Why are you crying?" And like little digs like that is what I'm talking about. Like, I think it's so common that, like, if you haven't
Mhm.
sufficiently earned the place to feel the feeling, you are not entitled to feel it. I just think that's such crap. It's the same thing for what you were saying about the death of your coworker or your
Acquaintances are so
acquaintance.
horrible.
I get
I
it.
grew up, people of the day, you don't make a sound, don't cry, that kind of thing. So you weren't allowed to feel it.
And I think it's even worse for men.
We got crowns too. I was like, what?
Oh, yeah, see, my family's not bad about that kind of stuff because to them, like, that's your grandma. You have a right to grieve. You may proceed. But like other stuff, like when my cousin Tom's son died, I wasn't super close. So, like, if I had been at the funeral blubbering, they would have been like, "What's wrong with you? Why are you grieving?
Mhm.
It's not your kid." You get judged for your feelings. The havoc that can wreak on your chakras, limiting beliefs, and just harmful, toxic thought patterns that get implanted into your subconscious. It's just no good. No good at all. So how do we combat that and like dismantle that part of the toxic culture that we live in and just, reinforce to ourselves and other people that it's okay to feel whatever
You
you're
can only,
feeling?
you can work on you and you can try to help those who come after. What's done is done. Trying to fight with that. Like my father, my uncle, my grandfather did it. They suck. That it's gone. It's time to focus on the now.
Yeah.
Like, my little one, be real. I tell her it's okay to cry. Eventually, you got to pick yourself
Yeah.
up and get going again. But feel your feelings and then pick up. I'm not pick on any family members, but some of them they would just get into that cry, wallow, and they would never come out. And they will spend the next 10 years talking about that event. I'm like, the event's heated up in that way, but you
Yeah.
got to get going again.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's that negative influence coming in. They're telling us we can't feel about things. Then sometimes it's ourselves wallowing in it. We found a nice mud pit and we're rolling around it. And this is now become an identity like, we can't do this, but you've got to pull yourself out of that.
Yeah. Or maybe we could give them constructive feedback.
You can say it nicely.
Yeah, because it's not sometimes, and this isn't a blanket statement, of course, but like sometimes, some situations, it's not a matter of just getting over it. There's a reason you're stuck there. So saying, like, what is happening within you, or where is the issue at that's causing you to be so stuck? What is
Mhm.
prohibiting you from healing? If they're like, I don't know, I always follow up with, like, well, if you did know, what would you say? They always come up with
Yeah.
an answer. They know. Their subconscious knows. But for example, I don't know about men because I don't have the male experience, but I know for women, if you've been cheated on, for example, and you decide to try to work it out with your partner, the guy will be like, it happened 10 years ago and she's still bringing it up. She's still not over it. Well, she's never going to be over it and it's never going to heal until she feels like really believes that you get how bad you hurt her. If from the moment it happened and you guys reconciled, you've been dismissive of her feelings, you have gaslit her, trying to make her feel like her grief and her betrayal and her sadness is not valid, there will likely never come a day in the rest of her
Mhm.
life that she will heal from that. Even if she goes to like years of therapy, it can heal some, but like there's always going to be something there. She'll
Yeah.
never
Similar
totally
experience
get
from
it and
my
forgive you.
perspective. It's, especially being invalidated. I don't necessarily tell people how I feel because it's my experience when I do. I'm immediately the bad guy. I can't believe you said, like, well, you wanted me to tell you how I feel. But when I do, you flip it around and it's now a weapon. So at this point, I'm just like, I'll tell you.
It's a matter of pointing out to them that there's a reason that you're not healing from this and that you're stuck here. Maybe you should dive in either on your own or with a counselor, but like maybe you should dive in and figure out what that sticking point is that's keeping you from healing and resolving these feelings. Because you have to find a way to
Some of
move
them are so
on.
deep. And I'm using one particular family
And
member. I won't really call them out, but it's almost become identified. It's even when they go to therapy,
yeah,
they don't go to therapy to
there,
heal. They go to therapy to get validated. Come and
yeah,
say, I told the therapist what happened when I was younger. And the therapist said, oh, shit. I was like, you're not going there to get healed.
yeah.
Validate.
And there are people that, I mean, that is their plight in this life, whether it's disease, disability, a wound, a trauma,
Yep.
like that becomes their identity. Yes, I know people like that myself. And as a nurse, I've seen it countless times.
I went off on that the other day.
So,
We went on to 4 or 5 topics that pissed this
mhm.
individual off. And finally, I had enough. I'm like, life is perspective. Spirituality is perspective. There's 2 ways you can look at everything. You can look
Yeah,
at it as this is terrible, or you can look at it in a positive light. You choose to find everything that makes you mad, and that's where you stay. That's where all your energy is. Where you could be thinking about something positive. What's positive? I'm like, well, think about it. Like right now, all I'm doing is singing along to the radio. I'm having a good time. I'm not thinking about what just got laid off like last month, or I had this problem. We all could find something to really dig into to really enforce that negativity. You have to choose that. You're making the choices.
And that's the important thing to remember is that in every moment of every day, you are choosing your reality. Period. Every moment you are choosing to get better or not get better, to go forward or to not go forward, to
Like
eat
I've made a
healthy or not
choice.
eat
Like
healthy,
right now, as soon as
to be
this is over,
forgiving
this
or
is not healthy. It is bringing me joy to
ugh,
think about it.
so jealous. Ugh. I polished mine off the other day. Was it yesterday or the day before when I was working so late and I'm like, I'm getting ice cream and then going to bed. And you're like, that sounds
It is.
valid. That sounds like the right plan. Yeah, it was. But now my ice cream's gone. Didn't get any
Maybe you
more.
should
And I'm
check
like,
your mail. Maybe having, some treats in the mail.
I checked my mail a
You should
couple
check it
hours ago.
again.
I didn't have anything.
Maybe I'm having a clear cognizant
Mm.
moment or a premonition moment.
I see that a package was delivered. Maybe I have some while we were
You can
talking.
call my hotline number,
Maybe
man. I
you
do
are
fortune
magic.
reading. Either that or I ordered something and I knew ahead of time.
Yeah, well, you know what? Thank you in advance if you sent me goodies because you had a clear
Had a
cognizant
knowing
hit.
that I
You had a
pressed order.
knowing that she doesn't have any snacks. I need to hook her up. She had a long day. She needs some comfort food. She's grieving. And they're like, "Did somebody die?" And I'm like, "Yes, TikTok."
Don't be sad for long, man. Something will take its place. There's always something.
I
Great
just
great
hope it's
grandparents
something
just lost their
good.
horses. But they really like those Model Ts. Eventually, something new will come.
The new will come along. I don't know how we got off
I
on
don't
that
know. It's just
tangent. We were talking about it's okay to feel your feelings. Don't get stuck there. Do the shadow work. Figure out what's causing it. Why are you stuck? We were talking about how that can block up your chakras and stuff. It can clog your
then
pipes.
you'll need Reiki and prune juice.
Mm, I
Did I say
haven't
it
done
wrong? Or is that
Reiki.
my accent?
I don't know. It might be your accent.
I'm over
It's
here like
Reiki,
go there and
like
get that
you
Reiki and
rake
get
the yard.
my chakras down.
Now, I know you're not terribly clairsentient, but like if
Flare
you've
shape.
ever watched
Like,
any of the Reiki don't Claire shame me.
but
That's awesome. No, I was gonna say, like, when I did any of the Reiki videos that I used to make, like little shorts or something where I'd send out some energy, were you ever able to feel
almost
anything
never
from
don't feel stuff.
those?
When I do, it's so weird to me. I
Oh,
don't listen.
that's sad. Okay. Yeah, because like they feel so good to me. Like feels great. But I haven't done it in so long. I forget that I have my Reiki certification. I need to go back and get my master level, but then I'm like, why? You don't even use it. Would it make a difference other than feeding your ego to be able to say like,
I
I'm a
worry about
Reiki
that more.
master?
Feeding my ego.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with ego as long as it's serving your greatest good. Ego's important. You wouldn't eat, you wouldn't get a job, you wouldn't comb your hair if you didn't have ego. You know what I mean? You wouldn't keep a decent house for your kids. You need to make sure that your ego is your amigo and not the opposite. Seriously, I don't ever use it. I usually forget that I even have that certification unless someone asks me for it. It's like tarot, like it's just not something that stuck for me or that I easily use. And so I just forget about it. So I don't know that there's any value in me going back to get my master other than to feed my
My
ego, at
flurry with
least at
taking
this
the
point.
courses at different times. They don't feel like you do. I'll go to the class. I won't feel anything. I'm like, doesn't make sense.
Well, Spomi just told me that you're a healer. So, I mean, that is a course you could take. Now, I don't know if you remember Nanette. She was the Reiki lady that I had. I did a live with her, and she also came to our group meetings once. Were you part of the group at that time? She was a guest speaker about Reiki. Anyways, Nanette had said that most of her gifts didn't come online until she started doing Reiki. She just was looking for a way to earn money and serve the community. During her Reiki training, things started coming online, and then she was doing Reiki on a patient or a person, I don't know what she calls them, a client, and she started getting flashes of, like, their issues or injuries or past lives. She started getting something, like, clairvoyantly. All of her
I wonder
clairs started coming
is it
online
specific,
as the
specifically
Reiki
the
energy
Reiki
flowed through
or,
her.
or these little plot points in her timeline where as soon as you do this, it triggers. So they had
Maybe.
to find, they've been trying to steer us to
Yeah.
them and we've been missing for some reason.
Very possible. I know that Reiki energy is powerful though. As it's flowing through you to get to the person, like you get a lot of the healing too. It wakes some things up. So I had a very cool experience during my Reiki training. This was for level 2. She was here for like 8 hours and I had to meditate most of it. We would do like an hour, hour and a half meditation. She would do some work on me, activating another hour-long meditation, more work, just all day long. And eventually, I had this, like, I wouldn't say it's an out of body experience because it wasn't, but it was like my consciousness was transported somewhere else, and I was seeing myself as what I think was an Arcturian. Could have been blue avian. I was blue, but I was laying in what in our modern equivalent would look like as a tanning bed, but it was this bright blue light coming out instead of white light. I was laying in this blue light bed, and I just knew that that's basically how we got fed. Like, we got fed from the blue light, and it was just really cool. That strongly came into my mind, my Arcturian connections while I was
Let me
getting
ask you
Reiki
this. This is
activated.
where I struggle. Doing all these meditations, is it a
Yeah.
guided with her helping you? Okay, so here's
Some
where
of
I
it,
struggle.
yes, which I struggle with, but the rest of them, it's more like there's a sound or a song playing in the background, and while you're meditating, she's
Okay.
blasting certain Reiki frequencies at you
Well, as long
type
as
of
it's
thing.
she or he, if I take it, I don't need them doing it because my experience, like when I tried the Pentatonic regressions, people are truly talk dental. And if they
Mhm.
stayed in the same tone as when I get there, maybe. But my experience is you get there and it's like, all right, you ready to start
Yeah.
the session? All right, you're now going to start. And as soon as they change it to that weird voice, I mean, listen to me.
Yeah.
I started
It pulls
laughing
your
and I started
consciousness
joking in
back.
my
Your
head. I'm like,
ego's like, "What?"
can you see the
Right.
strawberries?
Yeah.
Like, stuff.
Yeah, I think it depends on the person. The person who did mine, I haven't spoken to her in a few years. I just love her. I'm kind of sad that we lost touch, but when I worked at the hospital, there was a chaplain there named Brian. Beautiful ray of light. I always knew Brian. Brian is hard to miss. He's like, oh my goodness, how tall is he? 6'6", 6'4", like huge man, very loud, booming voice, loud, booming laugh. He's literally head and shoulders above anybody in the crowd. And just smile as wide as the Grand Canyon. Just ray of sunshine, hard to miss. So I knew who Brian was. Everybody does. But I don't think he knew who I was. So, anyways, I was sitting in the cafeteria one day, and this is where I'm like, how
Just
can I
saying.
say this in a non egoic way? But like at that hospital, it became well known for being like the spiritual person on campus. And so word of mouth would spread. And like multiple times a day, people I'd never met would like show up at my desk and like I'd hear whispering in my ear going, I heard you're the lady that can teach me about spirit guides. Or can we meet for lunch and you could tell me about meditation? Or they'd shove papers in front of me and be like, I printed out your latest blog post and I made highlights. Can
It
we
makes me
meet and
wish
like talk about
makes
them?
me wish I
I'm
would
just
sneak
like,
on like been
huh?
trying to reach a tricks to get cardboard.
Right. So, anyways, they would do that like in the
No,
restroom,
that's not
in the
creepy.
cafeteria, or stop me in the hallway, just everywhere. They'd be like, oh, you're that girl. So, anyways, I'm sitting in the cafeteria by myself eating my lunch. And there was the main cafeteria, which was huge. And then there was a smaller, what they called the doctor's lounge. It wasn't really the doctor's lounge. It used to be 50 years ago, but not anymore. It was just a small, tiny cafeteria off to the side. So I was eating there because it was more private and people wouldn't bother me as much. Sometimes you just want to eat. So, anyways, I'm sitting there. Somebody comes by and is like, can you teach me about manifestation, law of attraction? And so I'm teaching them a little something as I'm eating my pasta salad or whatever. And they walk away. I hear Brian from 3 tables up on the left. He has his back to me and he's eating. And I just hear him go, Abraham Hicks, law of attraction. And he turned around and looked at me. He's like, am I right? And I was like, well, kinda. And he goes, I'm coming to you. And he like gathered up all of his lunch, came over, and he's like, how you doing? I'm Brian. I'm like, I know who you are. Hey, Brian. He's like, can I sit here? I'm like, sure. And he goes, I have been looking into these things. I have been praying for a mentor, and the Lord has answered my prayer. Here you are. I would like to reserve your services for every Wednesday at 11 a.m. and we can meet right here. And we are going to have lunch, and you are going to teach me about spirituality and manifestation and the law of attraction. Would that be okay with you? I just dig this guy. He's such a nice guy. I mean, he was one of the chaplains, if I didn't say that. He was one of the pastors. And, I was just impressed that a chaplain, Pastor Brian, was wanting to learn about spirituality, law of attraction. So I was like, "Yeah, we could do that." And he's like, "All right, I will see you Wednesdays at 11." I'm like, "All right." So anyways, one week, Brian says, "I hate to do this to you, but, can I bring someone to our lunch this week?" I'm like, "Okay, are you expecting me to start teaching classes or something, Brian? Like, are we gonna have an audience?" He's like, "There was a lady whose dad was in the hospital. I, as the pastor, got called to the hospital to pray with the dad. While I was there, I got talking with the daughter. We became good friends because she's just so open-minded. She's just really cool to learn from. She's so knowledgeable about spiritual things. So we became friends. We've been friends for a few years now. So I mentioned to her that I overheard you talking, and this is, I guess this was when my channel was brand new. It was a baby. And he goes, I mentioned to her, "Hey, I met this really cool girl at the hospital. She's going to teach me about XYZ. She actually has a YouTube." And I mentioned you. She goes, "Oh my God, I'm subscribed to her. I love her so much. I've learned so much. Could I possibly come meet her?" And he goes, "So your fan base is showing up in the cafeteria today and she wants to have lunch with you." And I'm like, "Okay, that's awesome. Thanks. I'm surprised I have a fan base. That's cool." Fan number one, she showed up with arms full of gifts and a money tree. And she was just like, "I love you so much. Here's gifts." Her name was Anita. So, anyways, Anita was just blessing after blessing. She's such a great person. And she one day had called and said, "I have been led to give you free Reiki training if you want it. It's normally hundreds of dollars." And I was like, "I would certainly be willing to pay for your time." She's like, "No, no, no. I'm telling you, the universe has led me to give you your Reiki trainings for free and your daughter if they would like." So Amelia and I both got our Reiki training, level 1 and 2, and she was supposed to come back for master and it just kind of fell through the cracks. We lost contact and, it got postponed, life came up, and it's just never happened. That was how I got my Reiki training, and the story of synchronicity and how spirit has everything worked out for you. You never know who you're going to meet and where, and you never know who's watching.
And that's even people you know. Sometimes because you know person A, and they're always in this light. You just don't know when that light is going to shift for some reason. They're going to become way more dynamic for your life. To me, it's just completely
Yeah.
unexpected. Like you would never assume this person would take on a new role.
I used to work on one floor in the hospital, and then I got transferred to, like, the floor next door because they had lost one of their case managers, so I went to work over there. Now, the nurse that already worked at that desk, the other case manager, she was such a pretty, young, popular little thing, and I'm thinking, "She's not gonna like me. Like, what do we have in common?" She's gonna be
All
like,
right,
"Alright, old
Boomer.
lady." Yeah, all right, boomer. So, anyways, I go over there and I'm just being myself. I have my bra and all my pockets loaded with crystals and people coming up to my desk all day going, "Can you see what my spirit guide says about la la la? Can you teach me how to connect? Can you help me with this? What's a star seed?" And she's like, "Oh my God, what are all of these people doing at our desk all day?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, you're gonna have to get used to it. I didn't ask for it. It's just like kind of happened." She's like, "Well, teach me what you're teaching them. I want to know." And I was thinking, "There's no way she's gonna be into this stuff." Well, do you know that she became one of my best friends on the planet? We call each other SB for Soul Boo. Christy is her name, and she soaked it all in. She learned how to use the pendulum. She started meditating. She met her spirit guides. You never know who's gonna be placed in your path and what an integral part of
Mhm.
your life they can become. Like,
Yeah, I
you and
prayed
I
for
becoming
problems
friends.
always. And I mean, that's what got me.
But you had signed up for a coaching session a couple of years ago.
Something, something to help you figure out what's going on. I don't remember if it was seeing an orb or hearing a
Yeah,
voice, or it was definitely one of those moments that kind of propelled me. Like,
I don't remember either. I kinda shut them down for the last year, so I haven't had a lot of them. But at that time, I was having a lot. Like, I was doing, like,
you know,
2 or 3 of them every evening, and especially if you don't know this person's going to become significant in my life, like, you don't retain a lot of the info. So I do remember you because I remember thinking, "He's so nice. I really like that guy." But you had a coaching session, and then I think you had another one, and then you signed up for my membership and became part of the group. Then we started talking. You were like, "Jamie Butler during my reading suggested I have someone to talk to about this stuff because I need a
like that.
community."
Here's a funny side
And I'm
story to
like,
that one.
I was
I never heard of her. And it was during one of the group sessions that, and the other members were arguing back and forth over the value of how much she charges. And if you don't know how much she charges, it's a good amount. I'm the
yeah,
kind of person,
it's a good amount.
like a good rabbit hole. It was the same time you guys were talking about the Akashic reading. And I've only done that rabbit hole too. But yeah, Jamie Butler is definitely a good experience. If you have the disposable income.
Yeah. After that, you're like, she suggested I have somebody to talk to more about this. I tend to keep my inner circle pretty tight, but like spirit was just like, yes. And I had been thinking about it for, as you were talking, like for a few times, and spirit could tell I was ignoring them. Like, oh, cool. I hope you find someone to talk to. And, it was getting louder. Like, we said yes. and, and I'm like, well, if you need someone to talk to, here's my number. Feel free to text me. And would you know, we haven't gone one day without talking since. And like, we just became besties. Like, if I went a day without talking to you, I would think the world was going to fall apart. Like, where the fuck did he go? Something's weird here. And I've learned so much from you. You learn from me. It's just been a beautiful friendship. And you never, ever, ever know at what point someone is going to become an important part of your life and where they're going to come from. Like, sometimes they just get dropped right in front of you. And I think that's the best way, honestly. But you never know. You just never know. You're like, yeah, I have nothing good to say about you. Silence, crickets.
Exactly.
You're like, glad you
And
feel
I
that way,
feel guilty.
girl.
Did not mean that at all. I was in there thinking about the reading. Like, it's hard to hear a lot of times out of that damn.
You were at Disneyland.
I just got off the Frozen boat ride.
Yeah, mine. I learned a lot. I felt really validated afterwards. And I have not done most of the things she told me to do.
A lot of it sounds good. I think my own doubt gets in the way. Like, one of the things she told me is use a recorder when you meditate. And, you're going to start hearing stuff, or meditate in a sealed off closet and, allow you to see a light show.
Now, you were doing that for a
It's kind
while.
of laziness takes in.
Yeah, she told me she saw like a half circle, like a horseshoe of 12 guides. She's like, it's almost like a council. And then behind them are several pillars, tall, like skyscraper tall pillars of light that usually mean angels, or did she say angels? I need to listen to it again. I have it recorded. But she's like, and they're telling me you have plans to do something kind of big, but you have to keep developing first. And part of the problem, as we talk about in another episode, part of the problem is that I was meditating and trying to get my clairs developed and get my third eye open. And unbeknownst to me, I reached that point and then just like kept on going for the gold. And it's so wide open now. There's so much coming in. I have trouble being useful because I'm flooded with so much energy that I have to find a way to turn it off.
It's like, I'm flooded
What are
with
you
fucking.
laughing about? She's like, your guides want you to learn how to turn it off, find the off switch, and like close for business, at least at night when you're sleeping, or like on Tuesdays after 5. You have to find some time to just be off. And I haven't been very good at that yet. She said one of the other things that I need to do to help prepare somehow was to have like at least one day of silence every week. Now, come on. Have you met me?
I got to pick that day. I call it empath recharge day. Get everybody away from you.
Right.
And just do your own thing.
She's like, I don't want you to laugh. I don't want you to talk. I don't want you to sing. You just need to be quiet. You can text, but you cannot use your mouth or your vocal cords. They need to just be silent. I think having TikTok gone will help with that because, my God, I laugh so hard at some of these people. They make me laugh so hard. But no, I have not been able to successfully do even one day of silence, let alone one a week. I've never done one.
It's hard. Even when you're by yourself completely, you still make some sound.
I'm pretty good at it when I'm by myself, especially the first part of the day. The problem I usually run into is my kids will call. I'm not ignoring a call from my kids or my grandkids. I don't remember the other things she told me to do. Oh, she told me to practice trying to channel in front of other people, like just turn the camera on and let people in the group guide the talk. But I'm too self-conscious
right now,
for
like,
that.
put yourself in
I feel
the
like I'm
zone, and
wasting
I'm going to
people's
ask for some
time.
lottery numbers. Let's do it.
I certainly could. The thing is that I go in fast, especially like with all the energy I'm feeling right now. I think they were all here to help me film this and like to come up with the things we needed to talk about. So I have a lot of energy here around me right now, and I would go into that state pretty quickly. The problem is I have to like get over the hump. I don't know how to do that, but I get close sometimes. But yeah, if you get some lotto numbers, like
Right. But
I claim them. They're mine. I'll split with you, but they're
it's
mine.
fair. It's fair.
Oh yeah, I'm ready to
Yeah, I don't think
roll,
you know. There's
brother.
no I don't play.
Gotta stay ready.
It's
Can't win
fair.
if you don't
But
play.
again,
Anyways, thank you guys for hanging out and chit chatting with us. This is what we're calling our real shit or real shift
talking about today's
episode
events and how we feel.
where, yeah, well, these would normally
Yeah.
be just our phone calls. I always told him, I'm like, each one of these phone calls could be a podcast episode. Like we're just shooting the shit and talking about life, but we almost always end up on like spiritual topics and things like that. And for people who don't have community or feel like they want to have friends to hang out with and listen to some chit chat, that's what these are. We won't be doing these all the time. We're gonna do a couple of episodes every month with
Yeah.
like actual themes or topics or whatever. At least we'll try to, but at least one a month. Or, if we have things to say, things to chit chat about, we're just going to let it roll, hit record, and just have our normal
Get to see all the twists and
conversations.
turns.
You get to see all the twists and turns and follow along. But thanks for hanging out with us. And if you have any comments or any topics, suggestions for topics, things that you want answered, questions that you have, you can text us, you can call us. I'll put the number in the description box and in the show notes. You can send us an email to saltyseekers@gmail.com.
No, I
Anything to add
appreciate
before we
everybody,
go,
and I
Jay?
hope you're having a good week out there.
Yeah.